Okay, this video is about creating game assets with Sketchup. This software can be used to create game assets. Don't let anyone tell you that you cannot. We mainly focus in creating game assets for city building game, since SketchUp is built for drawing buildings primarily. But of course, you can do anything you want. You want to draw vehicle or something, that's up to you. That's up to your ability. We need to talk about some extensions first. Here are the list of free extensions that you will need. Okay, let's start with the True Paint extension. Let's prepare a sample texture first. I'm simply adding a edge so you can see where is the boundary of the texture later. This is bottom left corner. Let's try to drag something into this texture. Let's say this thing. Let's try another one, brick texture. Okay, let's save this thing. Okay, let's bring this texture into the workspace. Explode it. Let's try to create a regular faces. Okay, I would highly recommend not to use the paint bucket tool to apply your texture, because SketchUp just assign a random texture coordinate. You don't know where the hell is actually used. For True Paint, it always starts at the bottom left corner. Okay, let's say I try to apply to this face. You can see the axis line color it show you, the green, blue, red line. When you click on it, it always starts at the bottom left corner by default. There will be two primary modes of texture painting method that we will be using. The first one is painting the texture so it follow the texture, the geometry shape. The second one is just maintain the texture to be flat. These are the two modes that we will be using. Take for example this curved piece of geometry here. If you want the brick or the details to follow the curvature of the texture, the geometry, you need to use this mode. You can scale it. As you can see, the brick is following the curvature of the geometry. By default, SketchUp cannot do this at all, so you need to have this True Paint extension. Okay, next is Count Triangle. This is a very simple extension. All it does is count the triangle on your selection or in the model. I would recommend you set a hotkey for this. Okay, next one is Clean Up. Set an hotkey for the Clean Up, clean with last setting. What this extension does is, let's say after you make your model, you have all sorts of stray edges like this. You want to clean it up. Instead of erasing them manually, you can use the Clean Up extension to clean quickly. In the Clean Up setting, set Merge Corner Face, Repair Split Edges, Erase Stray Edges. That should be alright. Set the hotkey so you can clean these stray edges quickly. Okay, the next item, Selection Toy. Sometimes you just want to select the face and not the edges. You can use the Selection Toy. We talk about a set hotkey for them later. The one useful feature of the Selection Toy is it allow you to select untextured area. You need to make sure your whole model is textured, otherwise you have problem exporting them. In complex model, trying to find which area is not textured can be pretty much impossible. So I use the Selection Toy to help you in this regard. Let's say for this simple section, Let's try to create a default face, untextured face here. Select the whole thing. Select face only. After you select face, select front default material only. And then Ctrl G to group it. Now you have located all the faces that is not textured. Let's see where is this item not textured. From the surface, it looks like we have textured the whole thing. Hey, where did I forget? Let's check the group. Oh, okay. We forget to texture the bottom side. And also there is this weird pieces at the corner. This is the geometry that we do not want. You can delete this. Texture the bottom face and proceed to export your model. The next tool extension is Rough Texture Positioning Tool and Texture Tools. These two are mainly for assistance in scaling and positioning the texture. I like to put this tool extension at the bottom of my screen so it is easier to click. Let's say I want to rotate this thing. It is very annoying to use this thing to rotate texture. Instead, we just use the extension to help us. Just click the button to rotate or set a value 45 degrees, let's say. Easy. You want to change the scale, I use the texture tool, the fifth button. Let's say I want to scale this up by twice the size. Okay, now it's twice the size exactly. Okay, the last free extension is the UV editor, marginal UV editor. We are not doing UV unwrap in SketchUp. That is completely unnecessary for most type of object. Okay, this is the tool icon. You can use this to edit UV, but I simply use this for preview purpose. Let's say zoom in and zoom out with the scroll wheel. The navigation of this extension is a little bit clunky. You kind of need to move around and zoom with the scroll wheel. You can't pan it, or with the arrow key you can't move it. So you need to use the scroll wheel to try to navigate around, which is a bit annoying. So I only use this extension for preview purpose. Okay, let's say I want to texture this surface. Use the true paint. By default, this surface is assigned at the bottom left corner, right here. You can use this to move around the UV island, but I usually not doing this at all. I simply move it through this overlay instead. The following two extensions are paid extensions. They are quite handy in many situations. The first one is Artisan Tool. One of the things Artisan Tool can do is extrude edges. Okay, just like this. SketchUp cannot do this by default. And this geometry are also quad by default. So it is compatible with True Paint. If your geometry is like this is end gone, this is not quad. There's no lines dividing each of the segment. You cannot paint this with True Paint. It will just show you red, more than 4 edges. Technically, you can split it manually like this. That will work as well. Okay, this will work as well. But it will be faster if you can just use the Artisan tool to extrude the quad geometry. Artisan tool, you can also extrude multiple faces all at once. It also have the loop cut tool, but I sparingly use this function. The next one, transmuter, is mainly to convert model of other format. SketchUp does have the import function, but honestly sometimes they just fail to import for all sort of unknown reason, which is pretty annoying. Let's say this is the model captured from Google Earth. Okay, you can see the preview is too small. Set zoom out. Okay, now this model is ready to be saved as SKP file. It also have the mesh simplification in case you found a model online you want to use but the try count is very high. This is very simple, just slide the slider and it will reduce the try count while maintaining the texture UV on it. Okay, next we talk about hotkeys. The first one is adjusting the texture with the default SketchUp texture overlay. By default, you need to do the right click texture position. If you're doing this every 2 seconds, you'll go crazy, so make sure you set a hotkey for that. I use the F key for easy access. I also recommend you use the mouse with additional buttons, so you can assign some of the commonly used function to your mouse for fast clicking, such as the extension clean up, clean with last setting, the extension count triangle, view component edit hide rest of model is also something we will use all the time. By default, when you click into a group, everything else are still being shown, just gray out. It is obscuring. It's very hard to me to see the inside of the group, so you can use view component edit hide rest of model, set a hotkey for this function. Okay, now I can edit the group without being obstructed by some other thing. Edit paste in place is a very useful function, but I think it's also not set a hotkey by default. Let's say I want to copy this group and put it outside for whatever reason, but at the exact same position. Edit paste in place. Okay, now we have a same item in the exact same place. You can use this function to move model between SketchUp file, or just move item in and out of a group without exploding the original group or component. If you use artisan tool, I will recommend you to set the extrude edge function to Shift E. If you prefer to also use the loop cut function, so also set a key like Ctrl R or something, the same as Blender. For the selection toy, there are two functions that I'm mainly concerned about: select only face and select only front default material. However, if you try to look for the hotkey, you will not find it in here. Some of the hotkey assignment only available when the related object is selected. For example, now I select a face. Then I go to the preference, shortcut, select only face. Now you can find the edit item select only face here. Set one for only face and set one for front default material. These are two functions I mainly use. Okay, we explain a little bit what the hell is UV. UV is literally just X and Y. It is just coordinate. For example, this piece of geometry with a texture on it, you can see the selection. The UV is displayed on this preview UV editor preview window. UV is literally telling the geometry to use which part of the texture. It is that simple. The method of how you apply the texture does not matter. No one cares about that. On this preview window, you'll notice that this square is slightly brighter than the rest. Okay, this is 0, this is U, and this is V. Different game or different aspect of the game support different kind of texture configuration. Some can support infinite tiling, some only support UV01. When we say 01, that means you can only use this area. You cannot use any of the outside. For example, City Skylines 2, you can only use this 01 area. You cannot use this. You cannot put your texture over here, not anywhere on the outside. But for City Skylines 1, it doesn't really matter. Okay, take for example this little trim here. You can just make this as long as you want. As you can see, the texture just tile automatically. You can see the UV is really long. It doesn't matter. This game, City Skylines 1, can support it for the primary mesh. LOD, however, yes, LOD for City Skylines 1 is also limited to UV01 only. In cases for City Skylines 2, because you cannot tile the texture, you need to physically copy the segment of the geometry. So all this geometry are using the texture within 01. Okay, now we talk about modeling. How on earth we get to this stage? Especially when you do not have a floor plan. In majority of cases, we do not have a floor plan, so we just do it from street view. Let's say you want to do this building. You go to street view and align the view as straight as possible and capture a screenshot of this thing. Save it and then just drag it into your workspace. Cut this out. Align the rotation. And then try to figure out the size of this thing. You can measure things on street view. Where is this building? Okay, over here. Measure distance and try to guess the dimension of this thing. 10 meter or something. Okay, let's say 10 meter. Use the measurement tool. Hit Control. Start. End the measurement. Type 10 meter, enter. It asks you if you want to resize. Yes. Now this thing is exactly 10 meter from left to right. Then you can use this thing as a reference in modeling your building. You can grab the Google Earth model. There are also the method available online. You can look it up. Just do a rough block out. Okay, like this. Move it away. And then in combination with the street view, okay, project the texture on it, then you can start model the object. Make sure you use component for identical object. For example, this balcony. Don't model the same thing twice, and don't texture the same thing twice. You're just wasting your time. So make sure to use component. In this first pass model, we do not concern about the optimization. After you complete your model, all the details are there, then you optimize it. Alright, how do we exactly optimize this thing? We need to talk about how SketchUp treat geometry first. Let's say there's a floor here. And then you have a column. If you export your model like this, you'll find that your model is a lot higher in try count than you expected. Let's say this is 24, okay? After you export, you'll find that, why is it 28? It is because the bottom of your pillar is connecting with this surface. This surface is now split into multiple smaller geometry. Okay, when you see I move this thing, this surface has been split into multiple sections. So you don't want this to happen. Yes, I know when you're working with your model, the group are not really touching each other, even though it is snapped directly on the face. But when you export, the model is required to be completely exploded. So it will merge and cause this extra geometry problem. How do you deal with this? Simple. We just make sure the vertex or lines is not touching the face of other groups. Let's say we can sink this down. Okay, I just clip through the other group. Okay, when I explode this group is not merged with the floor. Okay, this piece of geometry is not being split, it is still two triangles. Of course, the next thing our optimization is to delete face that cannot be seen in the game. The bottom face, make sure you delete that. Okay, let's say there's a wall here and want to do a curved door like this. Make sure you're not using excessive amount of curved segment. Try 6. If it looks too rough, try 8. Okay, this is good enough. And then you extrude it inward. Of course, delete the bottom face, but we are not completely done yet. Notice this door, the one that we insert, is 9 triangle. We can reduce this. Group this. Delete the top. Now this is just 2 triangle. And then move this thing a little bit inward so the lines are not clipping the other thing. Resize it. Resize it so it clip through this 2 triangle is clipping through the doorway. When we explode this, you triple click. This is not connected with the rest of the wall. Door and windows opening often contribute a lot to the tri count of a model. In some situations, it is best to not cut holes on your model, especially inside face like this. Let me show you what's going on here. Okay, there's a door here, but the wall have no holes on it, so we do not increase the tri count of the wall. How do we do this? The door is actually floating just 2 mm from the wall. Don't slap it right on the wall. This will cause problem. Instead, move it away 2 mm. Okay, this way you get your door without increasing the tri count drastically. Also make sure it's not touching the floor, so you're not splitting the floor into multiple triangles. Let's say 50. Okay. Now the door is completely floating by itself, not touching the wall and not touching the floor. There are some structural detail that if you can avoid modeling it, avoid modeling it. For example, baluster, we should use the alpha texture, just transparency texture like this. Trying to model this thing will really fast balloon your tri count. Also for same for railing. These things are just alpha texture, so the poly count is very low. Of course, the game do not render the back face, so you need one face for each side. Okay, this one for the outer side, this one for the inner side. Alright, we talk about the model optimization process. Let's pick a color first. I usually use green color. Okay, let's say this balcony. We check if there are faces that we need to delete. Okay, no, this is fine. This part is optimized. I paint it green. Okay, let's see this wall. If there anything I need to edit. No, this is fine. I paint it green. This is optimized. But we check this bottom face here. You see this bottom face is clipping with the balcony. This will cause problem later. Let's say I move this thing down by 2 millimeter. Okay, now the problem is fixed. Anything else? Okay, let's say this window. Okay, this window have inner face that we do not want. Delete that. And the line is touching the face on the other group. You do not want that. Scale it up a little bit. So the line is clipping through the other groups. This will avoid generating or cutting the surface into multiple smaller geometry. Okay, this is optimized. Let's say the column. This space you do not need. You do not need this space. Let me check this. Okay, this face is touching the other wall. Let me move this thing 2 millimeter inward. Okay, now this is okay. Go through your whole model. And after everything is green, then you're ready to texture. Okay, now we talk about texture at last. How on earth do we plan this thing? Obviously, for games, one mesh means one texture only. So you need to pre-plan your texture dimension. It is not possible to change it later. Make sure you plan accordingly. This does come from a bit of experience. The more you work, the more you can predict how much space you actually need. But I will try to give you some tips about it. In your graphic software, set your grid to 256. Make the grid line easy to read. For example, I use the red color here. This is a 1K texture. So 256 split into 4 areas. There is this term texel density, which means how much pixel do I need on a surface so it doesn't look too blurry in the game. This is not a fixed value. This is never a fixed value. So don't try to make everything use the same amount of pixel. That will be crazy unoptimized. Alright, there's a reason why I set the grid to 256 pixel. How much area actually can this 256 pixel cover? It depends. Take for example, if this is a plain white wall with not much details in it, this 256 I can use it to cover up to 10 meter. However, if it is a brick wall or something, it might can only cover 3 to 4 meter. If you scale the brick texture too small, it just becomes very blurry. So we cannot go too small. For doorways, usually I use 200 pixel. 200 pixel for door and windows. Door is usually 2 meter or 3 meter high. 200 pixel is suffice to maintain the door details. Always start from the biggest element, especially the wall, the roof, and then work your way down to the smallest element. But how do we know exactly how much do we need? How much height is this thing? Let's say this is just a plain wall. 8 meter. Okay, 8 meter. How much do we need? We only need roughly maybe like this. This is the area we need for the plain wall. How about the length? This one is 18 meter. 18 meter. Let's say I want to reduce the amount of texture I use. I split this into two. This will repeat the same texture. So I only need roughly this much plain wall texture. Okay, let's do an example here. Concrete. Drag it in here. Select this. This is all I need. Control J. Okay, this is all the wall texture I need. And then we just slap on this. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Try to use the least amount of texture possible. If you worry about running out of texture space, you can try to plan most of the item first. Let's say I want to use this area. This is for roof. Measure and plan what you need. Maybe we have a brick wall. I want to use this area for brick wall. Then maybe we have some wall of different color. We can add it around here. And then at the bottom, you locate some space for door. Let's say you have 3 different types of doors. Okay, door 1, door 2, door 3, or different variation, how many you want. Plan your texture before you start texturing in case you worry about running out of space. Okay, now we talk about some texture shading tips. Try to avoid using flat color. That will only result in your model in the game looks very flat and unrealistic. Try to use realistic looking texture, especially photograph. Let's say I want to use this wall segment. Control J. Okay, this is my white wall. What do I do with this exactly? Let's try to apply it on a sample wall. Scale it up a little bit. Okay. Let me just bring up the rendering preview. If you just apply texture like this, in the game it's likely to look quite flat like this. It's not very refined. The corner is not very refined. Especially the game lighting for City Skylines 1 is very simple. So what do we do to make this wall look slightly better? You go to the effect, add inner shadow. Okay, don't make it too strong. Okay, and then also I'm going to add a bit of gradient. Very subtle gradient, 10% maybe, so it doesn't look completely flat. Okay, save this. Select the texture again. Now we want the corner to be slightly darker. We position the texture like this. Okay, now you can see the corner is more refined. Don't overdo it. You just need very subtle amount of shading, fake shading, to help the corner looks better. Let's say I open a window here. Okay, we use the inner glow to add fake shadow in the inside. Let's do a comparison. If we do not do that, also for the wall, which one looks nicer, the left or the right? Certainly the left one looks very flat and the right one looks having a bit more depth due to the fat shading that we added. Let's do an example for roof, specifically steel metal roof like this one. Instead of using large amount of pixel area like this, something that can be stretched, honestly you can just use tiny amount of texture, tiny amount of pixel like this. Okay, select this, Ctrl J. Again, we add some fat shading on this thing, inner glow, multiply, black color. We can use this tiny amount of roof texture to cover large amount of roof. Let's say we generate a roof here. Okay, like this. Group this thing, position it, rotate to the angle, stretch it out, sample, and paint. Now you have used very tiny amount of pixel to cover large amount of roof surface. Now we talk about using solid color the effective way. Let's say this is a steel railing. Instead of using large amount of texture, we use tiny amount of texture space. For example, maybe like 10 pixel or something. Again, before you use that, you apply some fat shading on it, like inner glow, black, multiply. Okay, what do we do with this tiny amount of pixel? You can cut this out, align this thing to the railing, stretch it out just like we did with the roof before, group it, sample, and paint. Rotate, sample, and paint. See, the edges have a little bit of fat shading effect on it. Which one looks nicer? Obviously the one with fat shading. The one with completely flat color looks very flat and uninteresting. So a little bit of gradient, a little bit of glow goes a long way. Okay, now we talk about the preparing the final texture and the LOD. City Skylines 1 have a bit of quirk on the diffuse texture. You can't just use this default brightness in the game, otherwise your model will appear very bright. We need to darken this thing. If you're using something like Photoshop, or in this case Photopea, you need to add an adjustment layer, hue saturation, -30, -30 saturation, and then level. Set this value to 140. That's it. This is your diffuse texture to be imported to the game. If you use something like Affinity, same thing, apply a saturation which is HSL, -30, go to level. In this case the value is in percentage. Set output white level to 56%. There, this is your diffuse to be imported into the game. Prepare your texture following the rules of the game, the illumination map, the diffuse, the color map, and whatnot. Then you're ready to make your LOD, which is pretty simple. Switch your texture to the darker one. Okay. Go to Style, Edit, Disable Edge Display. no edge at all. If you have other object on this model, hide them with layer. Okay, so all the remain is the thing is your main model that want to be turned into LOD. And then go to the shadow setting. No, don't turn on the shadow. Instead, set light to 0, dark to 80, and check use sun for shading. Now this thing have no shading at all. It is completely flat rendered. Okay, then go back to style, make sure the sky is disabled. Change camera to parallel projection. Use this toolbar to swap direction. Check all the direction, make sure they are all in your view. Top, front, left, right, back, and left. After that, what you do is simply File, Export to the graphic, set a hotkey for that. PNG, Option, set a high resolution size, anti-alias, and transparent background. Export this somewhere. Let's say make a folder called LotGen. This one is actually left side, if I'm not mistaken. Left D. Put a suffix for it so you know which texture is this represent. Okay, this one is front D. Repeat for all the direction. And the most important thing here is do not move your camera. Do not zoom your camera. You must maintain this. Otherwise, you will waste your time aligning the texture later. Next, you select a different texture map. Let's say the color map. Again, export. This one is left C for color. Switch to the other view. Export. Front C. Repeat for all the texture map you have, the illumination, the specular, and whatnot. I'm going to start with 1K. It doesn't really matter, we will scale this down later. Okay, locate the files. Drag all of them into the document. They should be automatically aligned. Let's see. We check the layer at the right side. Left D and left C. Move them together. Make sure auto select is off. Okay. Front D and front C. Move them together. If you try to move the other one without selecting the other one, you misalign the texture. Okay. If you want to set a color for it, that's fine, to differentiate it. Let's say I don't want this area. The left side and the right side are identical. So in order to reduce the amount of texture we need, I'm just going to cut out this area. Okay, like this. Mask it. Do the same for the other texture map. Now this is the texture we will be using for the front side of the building. Transform and scale it to a size. Let's say like this. Okay, do it for the other side of the building. Edit, transform. Because this building, the left side and the right side are identical, I don't need to export the right side of the building. We just reuse the same texture area. Again, the left and right are identical, so we just cut out half of it. Okay, like this. Mask. Try to use the least amount of texture possible. You really want your LOD texture to be incredibly tiny. Okay. We are working with 256 right now. but in the end I will resize this to 64. An object of this size do not need to use very high LOD texture. Just try to pack this area. Then the right side. Okay, that's about it. Maybe you have some other detail you want to fill in this corner, but that's about it. We crop this to 256. I'm just going to make the background dark and save as PNG. For the other layer, you can duplicate the dark background. Let's say I want to isolate the color map. Select the layer with color map, group it. Now you have the color map for LOD. Also export this. Okay, we got the files and rename it. Let's say building LOD D, building LOD C. Okay, what do we do next? We make a model as simple as possible to represent your main mesh. It doesn't have to be accurate. Could be just like this. Delete the bottom face. Group this. Again, make sure this is clip through. Delete the bottom face. So you're not affecting this geometry is maintained as 2 try. Okay, like this. Delete this one, don't need it. Okay, this is our LOD. You want to move your LOD a known distance, otherwise you'll mess up the position, or you can attach it together with the grid. We talk about export later. For now we deal with this LOD. Okay, drag the LOD diffuse, explode, cut it out. Okay, duplicate for the other side. Okay, you want to refine the ground floor, that's up to you. Delete the bottom face. Okay, then we split this into 2. Sample, paint, sample, and paint. There. You can use the UV editor to double check the texture position. Make sure it is staying inside the 0 and 1 and not going outside. For example, okay, this is going outside. Okay, this is exceeding the outside. This LOD will fail if this happens. So make sure your texture stay inside 0, 1. Now we need to resize this thing down. Make sure you also resize the texture map to the same size. We save this as 64 by 64. Also save this as 64, 64, export. Okay. Make sure you reselect the new texture size. It looks a bit blurry, but it doesn't really matter because this LOD is viewed from very far away in the game. Okay. Alright, now we talk about exporting the model. Create a new blank SKP file. Okay, we start with the LOD because that's the most simple one. I already assigned the grid for this model. This building is 2 by 4 in grid, and the center is over here. So you put the center on the center of the document axis, delete the grid, explode, and then check the face. Make sure there are no back face oriented on the outside. You can use the back face color, set it to red. Okay, if you have something like this, okay, this need to be fixed. Reverse this face. Okay, now this is correct. Everything white. Everything that the player should see are white. Then you're ready to export. Make sure they are all exploded. Export asset. Let's say same name with the PNG file. Building LOD.fbx. There, your lot is complete. Now for the main model, also copy over. Find the center. Snap it to the axis center. Explode everything. Okay, now you check how many triangle your main model is. 3500. Okay, after explode, how much? 3800. There are some area that merge together, but a few hundred is fine. It's not a big deal. But if you went from 3500 to like 4500 or 5000, then you got a problem need to fix. Something is merging, causing excessive amount of geometry being generated. Let's say this thing, this railing here is isolated, completely isolated from the rest of the model. They are not touching, they are merely clipping through. If I zoom in really close, you can see the corner is not even touching the other lines. However, if the line is touching other lines, then you got a problem. This thing is merged together and extra geometry will be created, increasing your try count. So be careful about that. After everything textured, export. Only one material can be used. Okay, what's the problem here? Let's purge the model. Window model info, purge unused. Okay, there seems to be some other color I added previously. I forget to remove. Delete them. And only remain the texture. Let's check if there are some surface that is not being textured. Okay, Control F, Control Shift F, Control G. Alright, there's something indeed I forget to texture. Is it important? Yes, this is needed. Okay, let's just texture this thing quickly. Explode everything. Okay, now we got no error. We're able to export. Building.fbx. Done. Now the model is ready to be imported into the game.